Okay, I'm going to go to the regular video here in a second. I want to take a look at this first. This is just a neodymium ring magnet. I'm going to put the supercell on top of it, and we're looking top down on the field. Let me zoom in a little bit. And here you can actually see three toruses. Of course, the torus is geometry of the donut. Here we actually have the outer donut of the constructive and destructive interference. Here we have the donut of the ring magnet. Inside here, we actually have, once again, this is top down in the field. I'll show you side on here in a second on the most important geometry in the universe. Yes? You see another donut right here and a little hole right in the center there, and everything is spilling right into here. Now there's nothing here. This is, the hole of the magnet. Now let's look edge on and using this little cylinder magnet here. Let's put the supercell on top of the cylinder magnet. We're going to look edge on the conjugate field. Then we'll look at that geometry in the video here in just a second. You can actually see the concentric rings, and here we'll be looking top down, which of course we can't. We're looking side in. And this is the plane of inertia between the two portals, like AC current lines. And here's the plane of inertia right here relative to the physical magnet. And of course there's no actual polarity in the magnet. Let's put it on top here. Here you can actually see it. And here's that geometry, right? So now what you're looking at dimensionally. And now let's go to the regular video. Doing there? I saw the video right before the beginning of me, where I was using the supercell and the ring magnet and the cylinder magnet. I got this 4K monitor as a Christmas gift, and I bought a new Mac Mini. It's the one thing I bought for myself. The really reason I could afford to justify it is my desktop computer is from 2016, really old, and this would be a tax write-off. Also, too, the chair that I've been using now for like 15 plus years, of course, is just absolutely horrible. And so this was actually given to me as a gift. It's supposed to be a gaming chair. It's actually really comfortable. Very, very nice chair. Supports everything perfectly. The other chair was actually quite painful. I'm going to talk about the ether and the idea of nothing, and of course humanity always confuses nothing with not a thing. And as I've said, I can make a laundry list of 200 plus things as proof of the ether. Yet, modern day so-called science will tell you that there's no such thing as the ether. What they did is you actually have to have a medium, even if it's not actually a medium, to replace the ether with. There's only ever been two postulated. One's been the ether, which is logical, rational, and explains everything very, very simply and beautifully. And the other one is this crazy atomistic idea of space-time. Well, time is only a measure, and space, as Tesla said, has no properties. This is from Electrical Discharges, Waves, and Impulses by Charles Proteus Steinmetz, a guy infinitely more brilliant than Nikola Tesla, believe it or not, and he actually perfected Nikola Tesla's AC generator. Even though it doesn't generate anything, it manifests. It's an arch form for manifesting energy. This is the conjugate geometry of the entire universe. If aliens landed and want to know that we're not, club-wielding, unibrow troglodytes from the Stone Age, we could just show them this diagram and then know we know at least a little bit more than nothing. Maybe not much more than this. This is actually marked the electrical field circuit, but here you can actually see the cross-section of a donut. You took a donut and you sliced it vertically, you took a half a section, you looked at the cross-section. This is also to the explanation, however, I'm not going to get into that, for the right-hand rule. And the right-hand rule is just a simplex way of saying nature's expression of pressure mediation, as it must. You actually have the dielectric lines, which are inertial, and they're always anti-spatial vectors. And this also, too, is the field of so-called gravity, which itself is not a field. And I have a codex of gravity in the description of this video below, which you can certainly download. It's only one page long. It'll take you less than 30 minutes to read it. It's called a codex of gravity that I've written it. Here you can actually see something that we see over and over again, and it's not only the cross-section of a magnet, it's also, too, the cross-section of power lines. Yeah, all these solid lines here represent the magnetic, and magnetic, of course, is centrifugal. The only true force of the universe is magnetism. Dielectric is not a force. You'll see countless millions of videos, including from PhD professors, that will talk about the force of gravity. Well, gravity is not only not a force, it's the complete and total opposite of force. So, anyway, this is the conjugate geometry, and of course magnetism is the dielectric field. That's like saying ice is the cold field of water. So this is the most important diagram in the universe. This is the yin and the yang, also too, of the entire universe. We can get rid of that. We can take a cross-section here. This is actually what you saw underneath the supercell at the beginning of this video, which I made that video today. And this is the ring magnet. The actual ring magnet itself is the black here, and we actually have three donuts, or three toruses. We actually have the donut of the ring magnet, and we actually have the exterior donut of the magnetic field, which is the curvilinear constructive and destructive interference of the ether and by the ether, as it is disrupted from the point source definition of what defines the magnetic field, because a magnet is a point source object. That's the second torus. And the third torus is right here in the middle where nothing is. There's nothing right there in the middle. That's the hollow of the ring magnet. It's like this. Well, there's nothing there. How could you say there's something there? Well, it's because there's no such thing as a field without a medium, just as there's no such thing as waves without a medium. It's completely impossible. However, you'll actually read from these people that light doesn't require a medium. Well, of course it does. Anything with a wave phenomena requires a field. So, and right here in the center you see another little hole, and that's the dielectric portal towards the plane of inertia, right at the middle of the magnet. Very, very easy. If you know what you're looking at, it makes Mother Nature really, really simple. And if we actually overlay the most important diagram in the universe, we actually get this. We could actually put the magnet, the cross-section right here in red. In other words, the red is a cube magnet, and this is the same field geometry. Yeah? Power is not in the wires. I like to talk about an AC current here in a second, and I'll put them side by side right here. You can actually see it, the dielectric portals. Now the red lines here represent power lines. Power lines going in the back of your house or the front of your house. This is the field that exists around them. People since the days of Faraday could actually see this, and that's from this picture on the left side here, and anybody could duplicate it by passing current and some iron filings over top of the wires. Now the wires here are marked in white. Here you can see this churning circulatory effect, but it's just this right here. This red box, of course, would be the magnet. The green would be the plane of inertia. So the power is not in the wires, rather, of course, in the field around same. You never do this, by the way. An induction coil is very dangerous around high voltage, high amperage power lines, and your Apple Watch, if you have an Apple Watch, it uses an induction charger. There's no anything passing from one to the other. The problem with using this computer is someone will text me, and it'll send me a text message, so I apologize for that. Nothing is passing between your watch and the induction charger of your Apple Watch. How is it that you could draw enormous, and by the way, don't ever do that, it's dangerous. You could actually stick an induction coil, which is no different than a coil of copper wire that's soldered on either end, and you could get it near an AC current, and it will draw, depending on proximity and the voltage, the amperage, a few different variables. They're not touching anything. You can put it in a vacuum and still have the same effect. You're drawing an enormous amount of current off those generator lines. I thought they told you and me growing up and in school, because they eliminated out the ether, which is impossible, and they replaced it with ideas of force. But force is not a thing. Force of what, by what, and upon what. There's no such thing as force. Force is not a thing. Just as happiness or sadness is not a thing. These are attributes of something else. There's no actual electrons traveling down the power lines, but you could see the current between the power line. This is also, too, the reason why, and people have noticed this back in the day, it's not you'd ever want to be in a lightning storm, but when power lines are struck, the extremely high voltage, and they're also too high amperage, but the extremely high voltage from a lightning strike on power lines will cause, and of course you can see there's a sag in AC power lines from wooden pole to wooden pole. When they're actually struck, the power lines will swing together. Dielectric is to voltage as amperage is to magnetism. I got another diagram right over here. You can actually see it, and it's the same cross-section between the AC power lines. Let's take a look at this. Of course, this yellow cross here would be like a representation of the wooden power lines in your backyard, and this is the exact same diagram between the power lines on an AC power current. Now, you look this up, say magnets are emitting virtual photons. You could ask AI or anything on Google or whatnot the truth of this, and this is what it will say. You can find this all over the place, too, and all these so-called experts will agree to this. This is where this garbage comes from, too. It's from them. Yes, magnets interact via the exchange of virtual photons, which are quantum carriers of the electromagnetic force. But these aren't real photons. Real photons don't exist either. I know where they get the idea of the photon from. These are not real photons of light we see. They are temporary field disturbances that mediate out forces. Once again, they've reified the word force. There's no such thing as force, any more than there's any such thing as happiness. Like somebody is happy. It's an attribute of something else. Force is not a thing. Allowing magnets to attract or to repel without emitting detectable energy. They're virtual, we say, because they can't be observed or measured directly. Actually, they can't be measured at all because they don't exist at all. Existing only briefly due to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, unlike real photons, which don't exist either, in any way, shape, or form. Unlike real photons, which travel at the speed of light and carry energy. The ramifications and the implications of the ether are undeniable and boundless. They don't want you or I or anybody else to think about such things, and everybody else, including me, is too busy worried about paying the bills and countless other things. All energy comes from counter space. All comes from here. It's like nothing can come from there. There's nothing there. You're holding up a ring. Well, this would be analogous to the ether, which you can't point to. The ether is not an object, it's pure potential. There's a reason why space is the opposite, which people think is real. Modern people are so brain dead and so brainwashed that they think space is real, and it ain't. And the ether is unreal, but it is real. Here's space. The volume of this torus is space, but this is literally nothing. But you tell people that everything comes from this, and they'll say, well, that's not real, there's nothing there. That's where everything comes from, non-Cartesian pure potential, which is a fancy way of saying the ether. The implications are bottomless. It means interconnectivity of absolutely everything. The field that exists between the power lines is where the energy is, all the intersecting points. And once again, magnetism is the dielectric field. The field around a magnet is not an emission. If we actually were to believe these people, and I'm quoting these so-called experts, okay? I am quoting them when I just told you about virtual photons and magnets emitting them. Anything that emits something is discharging energy, like a battery, right? Eventually the battery gonna go dead, ain't it? Yeah, I know ain't's not a word. Ain't it? Yeah? Kind of like you start riding your bicycle and you're emitting energy, and eventually you're going to run like, phew, I can't do it anymore. I've biked 20 miles and I'm out of energy. I need to go eat something and rest, right? Well, a permanent magnet will sit there for, as long as it's not disturbed or heated, it will sit there for a perdurable eternity with a magnetic field around it, but it's not emitting anything. Anything that's emitting anything is discharging energy. These people will deny free energy, but they'll actually talk about a magnet as if it's a free energy device. They're talking about a magnet like it's a battery, that it's emitting something. Anything that's emitting something is releasing energy in the premise of force. And magnetism is definitionally the force. But the field around a magnet is not an emission, it's the disturbance of the ether, because a magnet, by definition, is qualitative. It's a qualitative field of a point source object. And this conjugate geometry of this polarized object, the point source object we call a magnet, creates a disturbance in and of the ether. And of course, all fields are ether perturbation modalities, and power manifestation, or so-called power generation, occurs from disturbing a magnetic field with respect to time. You introduce a temporal variable. There's already a temporal variable in the magnetic field anyway. This is called the Lamour frequency, or gyromagnetic precession. We're talking about the nothing that is everything, the medium, i.e. the ether. The undeniable ether. The only way you could explain the universe is the ether. I mean, these people are literally telling you that a magnet is emitting something. Well, a magnet isn't emitting anything. These red lines, once again, is the same field around AC power lines. It's the exact same geometry. This, of course, is the Charles Proteus-Steinmetz diagram in Electrical Discharges, Waves, and Impulses, published in 1917. But this is the real picture of the magnet underneath the supercell here. We have the exact same geometry. This is undeniable. I don't care what you believe in, and I definitely don't care. This is the exact same thing you see here as in Charles Proteus-Steinmetz's diagram over here, but it's also, too, the same field schema between two AC power lines. Once again, the dotted lines represent the dielectric, and this is the reason why power lines, when lightning strikes them, they swing together. You have a massive, massive boost in voltage. Voltage is equal to the dielectric, as magnetism is equal to amperage. It's not voltage that will put you 6 feet under. It's amperage, which makes sense because magnetism is force. Inertia won't put you 6 feet under. Force will put you 6 feet under, because inertia charges you up. Yeah, it recharges your battery. Force will put you 6 feet under. I mean, there's no person on this earth that will deny that fact. Force will put you 6 feet under. Every single time. What did you think magnetism was? It's centrifugal force vector. It's equal to amperage. You up the amperage, the power lines will actually spread apart. This is an observed, well-known phenomenon. It's been known about for over 100 years in building the AC network that actually powers our world. The field around a magnet is not an emission. Magnets are not emitting anything. Once again, we get back to the shower head and the drain analogy. I mean, everybody can admit that that looks like a drain. I'm getting another text from my rich buddy here. He's like 80 years old, and he sends me annoying texts late in the evening. Everybody, I'll edit that out of this video. Everybody will admit that this looks like a drain. Yeah? This is quite close to the shower head. Of course, the shower head water is the same water that goes down the drain, but none of us take a bath or a shower underneath the drain water. We take it underneath the shower head water or the faucet water. These are two things that have different expressions that are one and the same thing. That loss of energy or inertia, which comes out of this hole, i.e. the ether. This would be the dielectric, and this would be the magnetic. Dissipation of energy, we end up with a field. Of course, I will point out to you yet again for the 1000th time, there's not a single branch of science that has ever defined the word energy, and they have never defined the word field. Think about that, the shower head and the drain analogy, because it's nearly perfect. By the way, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I actually worked until 4 a.m. last night. It's Christmas. Here, he's going to send me another, oh, it's another guy. That's my real estate buddy. Shower head and the drain. This is also, too, the cosmic cross. The cosmic cross where these two intersect is right at the center of the plane of inertia. Now, let's show you the cosmic cross from down, top down, right? This would be the cosmic cross from top. There's nothing there. Cosmic cross would be right here. The cosmic cross top down is right here. This is the ring magnet. Here's the toroidal or donut field in the middle, and right here is the cosmic cross right at the center. There's nothing there. Exactly. Well, there's nothing there, then it's nothing. Nihil ex nihilo. From naught comes naught, right? Except people confuse nothing with not a thing. If something is not nothing, but it is not a thing, then this is a reference to metaphysics. This is a reference to the ether. This is a reference to noumena. This is a reference to the Spiritus Sanctum. This is a reference to rest, right? Here's the cosmic cross side on, right, from Charles Proudhon. Once again, this most important diagram in the universe. Instead of aliens landed, the human beings know something at least. They at least know what this is. Actually, Steinmetz drew this, but he never mentioned its super, super incredible importance, and humans today don't know what this really means. I mean, I do, but here's the cosmic cross right here. It's the epicenter of the dielectric, and the cross-section, once again, the right-hand rule, is 90 degrees, right? Right here. That would be that little hole at the center of the torus, at the center of the other donut torus of the magnet. We have a torus and another torus and another torus, as I showed you in the first part of this video, that I added onto the front of this video. You could actually turn this 90 degrees either way, and you still have the same geometry. You have these curvilinear, intersecting, constructive and destructive, because force and inertia are mutually destructive. When magnetism is multiplicative, it's additive. When they're destructive, it's the same thing you see in the dual slit experiment. You just see simplex constructive and destructive interference. Same cross-section of the magnet. There's not a single video on YouTube and not a single article anywhere on the internet that will tell you what I'm telling you in this simple video. I hope you like the diagrams. Some people can't see things unless they have a visual representation. Once again, cross-section of a magnet here in the black box, and here we have the cross-section of the AC power lines. Both field geometries are 100% identical, but there ain't nothing between the AC power lines. Here we actually have a physical magnet, right? You know, like 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches, say for example an ice cube magnet. Well, it's all there, it's all a mass. There's something in between there. Here there's nothing, there's just 2 wires that act as the boundary planes of the dielectric and magnetic field. You have the exact same diagram, but there ain't nothing here other than the 2 wires, right? There's nothing here, just 2 wires. There's nothing but a bunch of space in between them. Well, space has no properties. Once again, answer the question why power lines swing towards each other from a voltage increase and swing away from each other during an amperage increase. The answer is actually really, really, really simple. Where both of these meet right here at the cross-section between the magnetic and the dielectric is the lowest pressure zone. That would be at the dead center of the hole, at the center of this hole. The center of nothing is the epicenter of the field. I will remind you too, at the center of what people call gravity, there is no gravity. At the center of a magnetic field, there is no magnetism. Everybody on Earth, including PhD professors, will tell you, well, you know, if you take the center of a really powerful magnet, is the magnetism most powerful there? Every one of them will tell you, sure is. Very powerful magnet, the center of it would be more of it. Just the opposite. This tells you using retroductive apophaticism, that ancient lost Greek thinking methodology, tell you exactly what gravity is. They'll tell you exactly what magnetism is. At the center of these fields, there is none of that field. Yeah? Because look, the magnetism in this case is the bright lines, right? At the center of which, here's the center of the magnet on either quote-unquote pole. There's nothing there. There is no magnetism there. These are the drains, if you will, in the shower and drain analogy. And at the dead center of that, which we can't see, right here is absolutely nothing. But nothing is not to be confused with not a thing. It means non-phenomenal. It means metaphysical. It means ether-based. The ether is undeniable. There are countless hundreds of proofs of the ether. Center of this ring magnet, which I got it right over here, there's nothing there. However, you can see at the center of the ring magnet, we can see another torus right here. Yeah, the magnetic field being mediated as it's flushing its way down the drain towards rest. It's the reason why all vectors in the universe are curvilinear. But there's no magnetism at the center. You can stick a Gauss meter there. There's essentially none. None. All energy comes from counter space. True definition of energy is counter space itself. Space contains nothing. Space is nothing. Space is the negative image of pure potential. These people have everything upside down and backwards, and they have brainwashed you to think that space and time are things and the mediators out of things that we see and observe in the universe, and they are not. Everything I've told you and the countless thousands and thousands of videos that I've posted to you, rationally, simply, logically, honestly, beautifully explain the universe in divine simplicity. Everything is unified, the center holds, and in their system, nothing holds. Everything is mishmash here, this here, that there. It's just helter-skelter. It's jabberwocky nonsense. They're literally passing out the crazy, and people are buying it. I'll take that. This guy's a PhD. He's got to be right. Who did your peer review? There's nothing running through the wires. If the power were running through the AC wires, then you wouldn't actually have this enormous... An induction coil wouldn't work. But they do. There's thousands of it. Don't ever do it. It's dangerous. Don't ever do it. It could arc over to the induction coil and take you out. Don't ever do that, though. It's very dangerous. But, I mean, there's thousands of videos of that. These people have never defined the word field, and they've never defined the word energy. And that ain't my opinion, girlfriend. That is a fact. Period. This is the cosmic cross. This is the explanation of the right-hand rule. It's the explanation of force and motion, inertia and acceleration. Everything is curvilinear, and everything is curvilinear because these are the competing principles of force and motion, inertia and acceleration, or the centrifugal and the centripetal. It's like saying the competition between the shower head and the drain water. They're mutually canceling each other out. Not that that's a perfect analogy, but you get the point. You know, you got the shower head water not literally fighting the drain water, but in the case of our fields, they're kind of fighting. They're canceling each other out. They're either additive, constructive, or they're destructive. It's all really simple. Makes nature really, really simple. When you understand the conjugate field or the yin and the yang of the universe, and there's no video on YouTube like this. There isn't one. I love doing stuff that's original, stuff that no one else will show you or explain to you. There's nobody else talking about this. This is the most honest diagram of the entire universe, the yin and the yang of the universe, the magnetic and the dielectric, and the superimposition of both, and the mutual construction and the mutual destruction of both as against each other. But I mean, they're not two different things. It's like saying ice and water. There ain't no such thing as ice in the water. Ice in the water. It's ice of the water. But of course, in English, we don't say ice of the water. But that is what it is. It's ice of the water. We should be saying not magnetism among the dielectric, rather magnetism of the dielectric. But in English, we just don't say stuff like that. But that's how it should be said. I hope you like these videos. I wish you a happy 2026 New Year. If you like these videos, any donation is always warmly welcome. Check out my free Substack in the description below. There's also 2 donation links there. Anything is very helpful. S Novым Годом, увидимся. Happy New Year. Kwanzaa, Festivus. Everybody keeps talking about Festivus. You know, that Seinfeld thing. Thanks for watching, okay? I really love this new chair. The other chair was really painful. I've been sitting in it for like a decade too long. This is way better. Thanks.